Afternoon, everyone. Uh, We have two citizens to be heard. Ms. Russo, you want to speak at item 2, or would you like to speak now?
Item 2, if I have
Okay.
questions, thank you.
And Mr. Klaus, are you online? Mr. Klaus? Don't see him anywhere? All right. First item is to discuss, approve, disapprove district court technology fund. Little glitch last week from 10,000 back to its original $10.
Move to approve.
Motion made,
Second.
second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Discuss, approve, disapprove an order calling a bond election to be held within Aransas County, Texas, making provisions for the conduct and giving notice of said election and containing other provisions necessary and incidental to the purpose hereto. Before we go any further, I'd like to just say that I'm not really afraid to let the people vote on this issue because I feel once they get the facts and information, I feel confident that they'll come to the same conclusions that we did. That the overall cost of, or actually the tax decrease to gain a new courthouse we need, and one that's sized for the next 70 years, is a wise investment. And that we need to secure grants to make sure that we are more resilient in the future, improve medical services, and we are here locally in any way we can. With that being said, the process outlined by the state is very rigid in nature. We started pursuing the certificates of obligation because of a time frame scheduled committed by our funding partners was very favorable. Remember, the sooner we get this done, the less costly it will be. The more assurance we can bring to the process, the better the project will be. That being said, I have a motion.
So moved.
Wait, can we I need to ask a question. I don't want to stop the motion or the second.
Second.
Motion and second.
I would like to propose a motion to amend the amount back down to the total of 14,250,000, which makes for, if I'm not mistaken, 12 million some odd for the courthouse instead of 17 million two. And I understand from prior discussions in open court, I understand that I'm bringing up something that does not have general support on the commissioner's court, but I did tell members of the public that I would at least raise it, and that's what I'm doing. So I guess that would be in the form of a motion to amend the resolution that's before us to shrink the total amount back down to 14,250,000, which corresponds to the original 2-story courthouse plans.
Motion's been made. Do I have a second? Motion to amend dies for lack of a second.
Now, I have one more question, and that is, I'm convinced that looking at the form of resolution, that this action we're taking today completely disposes of the certificate of obligation form of bond that we were previously proposing, that it just goes away completely and is totally superseded by the new general obligation bond. And I just want to make that statement on the record and invite anybody to contradict me if that's at all wrong, because otherwise we're asking the public to read this legal document, which is, only a lawyer can love.
I think, Commissioner, that if you look at paragraph 3 on the order, there it says, Commissioner's Court has determined that prior to issuing any debt obligations of the county for these projects, including any certificates of obligation, that an election should be held to determine.
I agree. I'm a lawyer. I read it. I was satisfied. But as I say, it's language only a lawyer would love. And also the public's never seen that document. So I'm just stating for everybody present today, we have a resolution, a form of which we've looked at. We're comfortable. It disposes of the old CO bond and we're going forward on the GO bond only.
All right.
I have a question then.
Yes, ma'am.
For those of us who have not seen the resolution or whatever the document is to which Mr. Smith and Ms. Laubach are referring, could you inform us of if it says what type of bond and then the amount?
GO bond.
Okay,
And the amount.
19.9.
17,235,000
For the courthouse, but total.
for the courthouse. 1,295,000 for the construction of roads and drainage. And 1,370,000 for the purpose of construction and equipment, county buildings to be utilized as a macro hospital.
was there anything in there, perhaps in that second amount, that's going to be used as an offset for the match that the county is required to pay on some of their grants?
It is, but they
yes.
said, I spent some time with the attorney on the phone with that because I thought the same thing. And that verbiage is what the law requires.
Okay.
That money could be used. It can be used for the match, or I guess if you didn't, if the grants fell through, you could use it on that amount. But
Great.
Yeah.
All right,
And
thank
that
you for
answers-
that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that doesn't fall solely to the courthouse. That's our match towards the road and drainage
Right.
project.
yeah, the same thing on number C, the deal is for the hospital. You know, they're working on a $10 million grant to go toward some type of facility, and that would, my understanding with the attorney, that money would be or could be used for the match on that also.
Thank you
So
for
that-
that clarification.
And that answers the question that I have often been asked, and that is, if this was really literally for matching funds, what would happen if we didn't get the grant? So the way it's stated now, it's for the purpose that the grants are for. We can spend it either directly or we can use it for matching funds for grants for that purpose, but we won't be stuck with, what do we do if we don't get the grants? We can just spend it directly on improvements, either
I'm not
hospital
sure about
related.
C, what
or
we would
roads.
do on that, I guess, you know.
It's my understanding in talking with Mr. Henderson that if any of these funds are left over or not used because of failure of the grants, that money would go to reduce the bonded indebtedness.
Right.
So we're allowed to prepay if we don't use the money?
Yes.
Cool.
Well, if I might, this is David. Judge, can I address that observation?
Yes, David, please.
Okay. Depending on if the measure passes and if bonds are sold, the question on whether you can prepay it or not is a question to be determined at the time you sell the bonds. What the commissioner has stated is correct. Any unused funds would go to the interest and sinking fund to provide for debt service whenever a payment can be made.
Okay, so either sinking fund or prepay, whichever makes sense at the time.
If
I
you
think,
can prepay, you can do it.
If it's included in the bonded indenture, the language there, I think that's what Mr. Henderson was saying. And he intends to try to work that in there.
But that's in other words, what we're not doing is saying we can spend it on something else. If we don't
No.
spend it on the thing we've identified, it goes into a sinking fund or a prepayment.
Any other discussion? Do I have a motion?
We had a motion
Yeah,
and a
motion
second.
already.
Oh, motion and a second. Forgot we had that. Okay.
Think-
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Unanimous. Nothing else to discuss or, whoops, nothing else on the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion
made.
second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Before anybody goes, we got some things to sign in here.